So our next guest is from the industry. So let's welcome VP SangWon Choi. Mr. Choi is the Vice President of Design at LG Electronics Corporate Design Management Center, exclusively serving LGE vehicle component solutions. With intensive experience in serving global automotive OEM customer, VP Choi has a unique technology-based design expertise, visioning next generation in-vehicle products, and also user experience solutions. Very exciting. Let's welcome VP SangWon Choi.
Thank you very much for that introduction. That was a long introduction. Let me go to my page here. Okay, here you go. So my name is SangWon Choi. I'm a Vice President of Design at LG Electronics, in charge of the Vehicle Component Solutions Design Lab. Today, I'm just going to briefly introduce you some of the work and challenges we're involved in the automotive vehicle solutions design. I'm not an expert on the subject of AI or HCI. I'm just an industrial designer trained in transportation and automotive design, as you've just mentioned. My educational background starts with a bachelor's degrees in mechanical engineering, but after finishing the degree, I came to realization that my true passion is in creative design. So I worked at some of the OEMs, Nissan and Infiniti, to be exact, after graduating from a transportation design department at the Art Center in Pasadena. Later in my career, after about 20 years in the automotive design industry, I specifically was trained in the interior design and later on design program management. So I kind of naturally became interested in not styling aspects of vehicle design, but more about the more production-oriented element of vehicle design, especially in interior technology. So when the opportunity came to work for a global tech company at LG, I was a little hesitation, jumped right over here. So I have a kind of unique and somewhat natural career progression from engineering to design and into automotive and now electronics. So I made a few jumps, but it hopefully it will give you a kind of a little bit of a background on what I do. I lead the Vehicle Component Solutions Design Lab. It's one of the 8 talented labs at LG Electronics Corporate Design Center. VS Design Lab is dedicated to support our business solutions, with our global OEMs, partners, and in transportation industry. Our member designers are integral part of the product development process, and since our studio birth and company establishment of the VS unit establishment in 2015, we continue to innovate with advanced visioning and production intent in vehicle systems. Vehicle innovation and electrification and digitalization is our main mission. We enjoy being at the front line of the auto industry, transforming with the transformation efforts with our valued global OEM customers. Our design work includes holistic interior concepts, utilizing long history of our knowledge in consumer lifestyle products, combined expertise in electronics for vehicle exterior and interior. We also hold an expertise in the global vehicle exterior lighting, with recent acquisition of ZKW, an Austrian headlamp lighting company based in Austria. And our long experience in the connectivity, telematics, mobile communications solutions also serves as a great foundation and for our more user experience content, GUI, and UX design. I'm going to lightly delve into our experience in vehicle component design, mainly in digital cockpit, and to share our learnings on the trends of the automated tools and processes that we use in the automotive design process. Hopefully, some of that will provide a short intro to the world of future digital cockpit and the challenges we face and uniqueness relative to the electronics industry and automotive industry and others consumer product industry. As you probably could have guessed, the design process, tools, and styles are changing and growing, and some of them are growing very rapidly to a point that we cannot keep up with the changes. It's kind of like an exponential speed in complexity and also in specialty, very specialized tools as well. And intelligence-assisted automated tools are kind of increasingly utilized to handle the complexity, the repetitiveness, automation, and that kind of stuff, knowingly and unknowingly in product design experience. And luckily, so far, it's providing a very high quality design output. If I stay with the kind of a very basic tools, I'm just going back to that sketch. It's just traditional drawing tools, and no longer you can't see pencil and paper in automotive studios these days. There are some, obviously, but we're now heavily digitized. Even kind of Wacom tablets that do the strokes have a kind of a predictive modeling. AI is kind of using the technology to kind of forecast where your pen is going and then provide a natural sketch feel. It's a kind of interesting that the technology is trying to mimic the traditional result in design. I guess designers have a preference for a little bit more nostalgic output quality. And since then, it's kind of gone into a lot of the digital modes. What you see is the sketches on not on paper. This is a friend of mine's sketch done on a Wacom tablet and on a Photoshop. They're beautiful freehand sketches to begin with, but it became much more accurate, and rendering on paper, as the rendering on paper is transformed into digital format, it's drawn over actual CAD data, and so on and so on. So the quality and the results of the design is improved quite a bit. And even more daring, today's designers, the younger designers, do not stop in digital painting. They venture into direct sketch modeling. This is actually not this is actually the work of a designer, the one you see. They rely less on a traditional partnership. Usually, a designer works with a partner digital modeler who specializes in modeling. But they're kind of today's designers are taking kind of their own seat, and they're actually 3D modeling their own design. They like to take control of that, and AI-assisted modeling tools that does all these fancy visualization allow them to do that. The image you see are kind of it's a work of two twin digital automotive designers, Bryden brothers. They have an extensive experience in OEM, but also they build these high-quality digital models, even prototype cars in their garage. Some are even using game engines to rig their models for movie-quality 3D animation visualizations. So the skill level of the new generation of designers utilizing the AI-assisted tools is increasing exponentially. This is also the case for the building of a prototype that we normally wouldn't have done in the past. The designer themselves can design their headlamps, make a prototype model, and right now what you see on the right is an actual visualization in CG, but obviously it can be printed, 3D printed, and made into a performance part. Not to the spec, probably not the spec of industry requirement, but at least it can capture the designer's intent. And then those kind of packages are, the possibilities are allowed because there's so many variations of digital tool packages. This is it's just capture of an Autodesk Alias product line for automotive use, but you can see that it ranges from sketching to the speed forms, actual the sketch modeling and the visualization, and even to the Alias surface, which is a production tool quality Class A surface modeling data package. So these are all available to designers of different interests and different skill level to suit their needs. And we kind of nowadays see a little bit more shift for the designers into parametric modeling, computational modeling, not to use it in a in more of an engineering purposes, but to use them in a very light the light modeling of computational modeling tools allow them to use them in the visualizations quite a bit. And as you know, this is a very famous pattern used in the Louvre Museum in Abu Dhabi. There was parametric patterns of complex shapes. What used to be impossible is now possible due to advancement in the parametric modeling. And we see that kind of modeling tools, kind of a conditional generative modeling. You give them certain conditions and it makes the changes in the model. We started to use that in the automotive as well. This is already a few years old, but cars on surfaces, the first use of such parametric modeling is in the automotive grills. The grills have a cooling requirement for that air to cool the radiator. They give a specific target of an open area. In traditional methods to design that was a very, very difficult and tedious task. Designers and the modelers used to fight all the time about it because of the repetitiveness of it. But now it became so automated and it became so easy to change that even without the grill these days, that same method is being used in the automotive body on surfaces as well. A good example is this BMW Vision car to celebrate their next 100 years. You can see the computational modeling. It looks like a grasshopper with the alias on the left. How they designed the actual show car. The body surface is actually deform and morph as a steering wheel turn. And I think that BMW is even trying to use that same morphing styling theme into future vehicles as well. So kind of the search continues. And this is only possible because the designers themselves are looking into embracing the new technology and trying to utilize it in their design process. The resistance of any new such process would not have made it possible. Kind of the same complexity and development and advancement is happening in the lighting area as well. Automotive lighting for longest time back in the days used to be just to illuminate the road conditions ahead of you. Kind of a very dimly lit, maybe about 10 meters or 20 meters or so. But as it progresses into modern headlamps, now the latest headlamp can reach up to 700, 800 meters with their lighting, laser lighting technology. Not only does it light the area, it also actually can see. It has ADAS sensors, cameras, much more highly intelligent lighting modules are being developed. This in case is working with Audi by the ZKW. ZKW is our wholly owned company in Austria. The headlamp is no longer a lighting unit. It's actually becoming a real eye that performs just like a human with a lot of sensors in it. And a similar thing with the rear light. The packaging space for the rear light modules are becoming very thin with the technologies in OLEDs and the glass OLEDs and micro LEDs and mini LEDs. Some of those light panels and light units are very thin, even flexible. And then maybe even some of that area can be used as a limited communication area as well. So these technological advances, the demands of new conditions and performances are making very highly advanced products. This is an example of the headlamp that is built in with the LiDAR sensor, utilizing the autonomous driving as well. So I've kind of mentioned what the tools and some of the examples that automotive exterior components are becoming more intelligent, using intelligent tools and design methods. And for the interior, it's kind of the same thing is happening. But more on I think I'm kind of more focused on the digital cockpit side, the display-based products in vehicle infotainment systems, where we used to just kind of, in the old days, it used to just be simple, very limited data was shared to the driver to show the vehicle conditions. And more modern vehicles, as you know, the meter clusters, although analog, still had a lot more data to visualize, but still kind of enough to handle by one couple in UI designers, just based on guidelines, there are certain tick marks and certain space and gaps and size of fonts, and there are some rules that you have to keep. But it wasn't unmanageable amount of data. But today, that becoming the digital display is allowing now infinite number of data to be embedded into the system. It's becoming quite a bit of work to handle the workload. This is a few examples of our production project that we recently finished, and this one and continuing to actually grow and develop. This is a Jaguar's PIVI system. They're named for Proteus in vehicle infotainment. In this case, Jaguar Land Rover is making a standard platform of a UX GUI IVI system to be applied to their all of their models, up to I believe about 17 models, well, different size displays and orientations and types. So we had to design a very complex and a lot of hundreds of pages of Photoshop data, UX source codes and assets and whatnot. Very challenging in that we had to manage the whole the series of vehicles and their SOP release dates. The other challenge is this is another award-winning for where we worked for the Genesis Generation 6 in-vehicle infotainment. In this case, kind of a little different, but the same complexity challenge that the display system, the in-vehicle system is now, the features are increasingly growing. The amount of data that we put in form of UX feature is becoming more and more and more to a capacity to even fill up the hardware capacity. And we kind of have to be able to manage the growing number of data and how to manage the growing number of data, how to make the changes and be able to apply those changes to all vehicle lineup. And that kind of management of that UX feature data is a big challenge for us, especially for Hyundai Motor Group, which is our local OEM, as you well know. We have a very high workload with to manage this growing in-vehicle infotainment system user experience. And this is probably our most intensive digital display conversion because this is a Cadillac OLED display. This is industry first 38-inch total size OLED display digital cockpit. So we had to develop a display, not only the content, but the display hardware was a free-form curved shape plastic OLED. So you can see that it's not rectangular display, but a free-form shape and very highly vivid color contrast and even a great visual in the outdoor as well. Here also see some samples. We also are very tasked with adding a lot of animations from now on, and that is going to continue because it provides using higher resolution, higher performance digital display. It just attracts the need to put in more dramatic visuals. So creating those visuals, managing all the data, and the complexity for the digital cockpit is becoming the most challenging workload we have for the UX and the entire interaction design team. This is just kind of an example of an exterior condition. Maybe that won't play. Oh, there you go. So this is an actual driving scene where you can definitely a change in trend, but it already being accepted to quite a bit, hands-free driving, and then you can kind of tell that the driver is a little bit nervous because of the hands-on situation. But yeah, all touch display. Some of the things that we kind of need to start understanding is the placement of these hardwares and the actual ergonomic user experience, how to reach the far distance displays and so on and so on. So is that curved display shape good enough, or should it be more toward the driver or toward the passenger, or should it be allowed to flexibly turn to many different angles, and even glass can bend to a certain level? As you've probably noticed in our the rollable TVs, the same kind of technology we can use in the interior of automotive as well. This is long before the 2017. We collaborated with the Renault design and their prototype effort to create an autonomous car for a media event. We provided the display-based entertainment system, created all the GUI that goes into it. So it's an actual glass, one-piece glass formed with 3 POLED plastic POLED panels bonded as one piece, and with all the touch sensors, and then it performs flawlessly in their media runs and so forth. So it definitely is something the automotive industry is going into wider, longer, consolidated digital cockpits. The problem and challenge is how to manage the experience and the exploding number of data that you want to embed in the vehicle. Because we've noticed that at this moment, a lot of the digitalization effort is kind of an evolutionary. All the hardware that used to be in the interior of a vehicle, which you see on the left, the cluster used to be analog, it just became digital display. The same thing with the center information display. All these controls are just becoming from analog and changing into digital. I think there needs to be a better or kind of revolutionary change in interior. Maybe the seating arrangement can change a little bit, and then a lot of these small display and content can be consolidated into one local area. But also at the same time, consolidating into one local area, it makes it difficult to use for certain people in certain positions. So how to make that flexible, and how to maybe even change the displays as the consumer wants. If they want to have a different type of display, can they swap it out? Can they be in a module basis? Or can they enhance their function by allowing some hardware additions in form of a cartridge and even software as well? In the case of the right image there, we were even thinking about, and there are some concepts out there, but thinking about having a center information control interface device on the steering wheel. If the mechanical shaft of the steering wheel is disappearing, the airbag really is not necessary to a certain level. The airbag originally was developed because of the shaft, the metal shaft that is pointing at you. If that isn't all drive-by-wire, do we need that airbag? Can that be a place for a very intuitive controller in the center of the steering wheel? Or do we even need a steering wheel? So a lot of those changes need to happen. The feature that we put in the, as I mentioned in the previous slides, the amount of data that we create in GUI for additional user experience it's exploding, and it's a lot of work that we have to manage. As not an OEM designer, but as a tier 1 supplier, we build and make every single page and every single icon on those large displays. And those display sizes are much more bigger than your typical handphones, smartphones. So you can imagine all that real estate, what data to put in. They're kind of inviting themselves to put in more data, more data, more data. And is that really the right way to do it? I think that's some questions that we ask ourselves all the time as we work on this daily. So what used to be 700 to 900 pages of Photoshop files for GUI menus and prior to 2015, that's already a lot of data compared to a smartphone. It's a little bit over around that number or about the same number. But now in 2020 and beyond, we're expecting that to grow even more. So we're reaching already 3,000 pages of PSD, about threefold. That's just not going to stop. And we know that because this is kind of a graph that we kind of collected to show how much change requests that we're getting from our customers from time to time. This is just kind of an example, but after the SOP started production for the automotive. Typically after the SOP, a lot of the workload goes down or they stop. But we continue to increase. And this is because the OEM and just the product planning or for marketing reasons, whatever, when they come up with a new idea for user experience, they simply add onto the digital system because the display can just add another page. Obviously, there will be a limit where the hardware stops performing right, but until that fills in and the system becomes bogged down by the amount of data, they're not going to stop. So how do we manage that, and how do we make that a usable experience, a pleasant experience for the user experience is a big challenge. We also have to worry about different OEMs, how their layout of the physical hardware is designed in the interior per brand. Every car automotive OEMs have a different type of styling strategy, their theme, what size are they, and what kind of performance do they look for, and even what placement. Does it move? Does it rotate? Does it tilt? All those different combinations of digital display content and physical layout must be kind of taken into consideration, which is a great challenge for us in Tier 1 suppliers. This is a screenshot from a very good reference site service company called Screens Studio. They take a good analysis of every vehicle, and their database is also growing at the moment. But this is kind of a similar trend in most OEMs and models. The first three menu depth levels are driving-related features, and then the additional convenience and feature and entertainment features start to populate in the level depth menu for 5, 6. But there, as you can see, there are a lot of features that we put in digital cockpits, and you sometimes wonder how often do the consumers actually use those features? Are we just putting them in for marketing purposes and whatnot? But it's a challenge because it's a challenge for us to make them. We also are in good position to see where is it necessary, and you can kind of see that in this image where this is a Tesla Model 3, and I guess on the right is a Tesla Model S. But you can see that the consumer still behaves the same even if they have a very advanced IVI system. They want to have a direct access to what they are comfortable with. So even with the 17-inch screen, 17-inch screen in the middle, still add their smartphones on the device, into their car. what is the best place for it, and how do we make that flexible interior in physical and in experience is a big challenge for us, and that's what we kind of in our advanced design effort we try to look into some other options because in the automotive world, the automotive interior is a limited space. They can change from maybe from a A segment vehicle to D segment vehicle, maybe a few 100 millimeters difference. It's not a lot, but it feels like a lot, but it's a very limited space. But every user, every consumer has a different need for it, their lifestyle, based on their lifestyle. So how to personalize that space that fits individual lifestyle is very important to us. This year, LG Electronics is focusing on designing really from the consumer's viewpoint. I mean, we always say that, and it's kind of a cliche, but we often go back to think about what is it that consumer really wants? What size of display do they want? What combination do they want? Does it have to be placed here, there, and why? That kind of question we need to ask more and more to be relevant, to stay relevant in the industry and be able to show the future of the digital cockpit. Another complexity that on top of the hardware and software and content, and complexity we have to deal with is the various different trends that we have to follow. The one on the top, the rows of all the collaboration tools and prototyping tools and development assistant tools and kind of conversion to workflow enhancement tools. There's so many of them in market, and some they're not exactly the same, and none of them are perfect for all purposes. So how do we train our designers to engage and be able to be expert at it, especially in corporate environment where the safety and security is very tight. Firewalls are very heavily fortified, and we have multiple OEMs outside of the company that wants to collaborate in design process. And how do we manage that? Because of those tools to be deployed and be functional, we have to be able to open the channel. That security, and then the collaboration, open collaboration. There's always a challenge, and also the big learning curve of all those softwares and tools that are available, which looks really great, and but we have a hard time deploying throughout the design center. Another challenge is to, as I mentioned in the previous slides, just kind of different formats and different shapes and different orientations of all the digital outputs that we currently is coming into the market. Every OEM obviously has some level of some strategy, but what display size is perfect for them and what orientation, and then that's what we get sourced, and we still design to that exact pixel dimension. We need to, and it's kind of weird that we are not doing the same thing as a smart phone or iPad type of devices where the responsive UI kind of naturally realigns to where the position is, but that has not still caught up in the automotive, because automotive has a fixed display size and fixed display location. What happens if that becomes more free? How to manage that complexity? It's a big challenge. In the increasing demand on the right hand, we are also being challenged with adding more animation, real-time animations. This is an example of Ford F-150. This is the 2021 F-150 digital cluster. I believe it's an option, but you can see that those the vehicle design, vehicle visualization, movements, and even the surface treatments, the color material and finish, the weather effects. These are possible because they're actual real data, the polygonal data that we mentioned in the beginning. The light data of the entire vehicle is actually being embedded into the system, and the updates can create the visualization they want, because the vehicle data is already in the system. And then it becomes a very much a dramatic GUI, user experience. So the industry is fast exploring use of game engines in the automotive interior. So this is Unreal, Epic Games is Unreal Engine. Same thing with its competition, the Unity engine. They're developed for game purposes, and the same technology is being adopted by the automotive industry. So I expect that in the future, your actual vehicle driving is going to be a lot like playing, PlayStation games, for example, because they're using the same technology to make that visualization. And how to make that visualization work with the actual user interface, user experience, is because it requires a whole new pipeline. It needs a different type of designers, it maybe a very long, already established pipeline for entertainment and game industry, but the same pipeline or similar pipeline, there should be to be established in the automotive. We're just starting to a certain degree. Some OEMs are better than the others and faster than others. Ford obviously showed this a little bit more advanced condition since there was a production model. GM just also released their concept car for the new pickup truck, electric pickup truck, using this type of game engine visualization technology. So now there's a kind of a more in-between area between a visual design and the development and coding person. There's some people in between where they can do both, kind of do liaison between those two, the workflow. We're actively looking and growing this capability, and but it's not easy to find the right people. We also think that the cloud-based technology is going to impact the digital content of the digital display. A lot of the data that we mentioned goes through an OTA on the regular updates, but in pages of design. But we expect that size of data is going to increase more and more and more. So maybe the entire vehicle data, I don't know exactly what they will use it be for, but the entire vehicle data can be transmitted to visualize content and provide a very dramatic visual experience. This cloud-based 3D visualization is widely being used in the marketing purposes in online ordering systems and what they call product configurators. To see what they order, the vehicle in different options and colors and features. That buying experience is going to be, I predict that it's going to come into the actual in-vehicle experience as well. So I'm just kind of wrap up. I think when we used to design an automotive project, a certain function within the design studio, their contribution and collaboration created a product, a certain output, a simple output. The range of their skill set is becoming more and more wider. The designer can handle modeling. Modelers can handle much more higher visualization. The visualization, the expert can now deal with some of the technical liaison that work with the engineering side, the development side, even marketing side. So the skill set is growing, and then the result, whether that's in product user experience or that output is being used in some other business purposes, is becoming much more complex and much more dramatic. So I think that is making all those output kind of growing in exponential numbers. So where do you draw the line is, I think, is very important, because as I said, because in case of digital cockpit, just adding more UX features and features doesn't really improve the experience for the consumer. So I think the designer's goal should be to be able to kind of not lose the focus on the consumer. And is this really something that will benefit the consumer in the end product? I think that's probably the most important thing. There's just kind of because the question was about the AI. I think the AI in industry is already taken a deep root in our process and in tools and software and hardware, whatnot. It's very wide ranging and it's very good at performing a very high quality, producing a very high quality with very accurate results and handle a vast amount of data with complexity. So I think that automation, that of repetitive task and handling complexity is already out there. But I think, and when you mention the autonomy, what's the next step for the AI in product design, a complex design like an automobile, is just being able to try and be courageous and try to work with it, just like that case with the BMW. It'll give, I'm sure it'll give more innovation and enlightenment in the process. I really like this kind of comment that I've heard from a distinguished designer at IBM. This is a kind of a daily problem that I face here at the corporate environment, because we have a limited number of resources, but a fast growing pressure and workload. How to handle with this newly added challenge and function and demands with the same number of people. We have to be able to change the process. We have to kind of in a very agile way. It's the same system and same process that we design is not going to last very long. The change is coming so fast. So, but staying positive. It's difficult, but by staying positive, I think that's and being courageous and be able to kind of be inquisitive about finding new ways of doing the same work and even more challenging work. I think there lies in that searching process should be in every designer's heart and passion. I think that's part of the new designer's responsibility, not just to create something beautiful, but going with the times and making even better products for the consumers. I think that's it for my part of the presentation. So apologize for the little bit of a rambling, but I hope you find some part of it very interesting.
Thank you very much, VP Choi. I believe those messages will be very valuable for the future designers. Here, I can see there are a couple of questions for you, but for the time reason, we directly go to the panel discussion. Hope that's okay. Then we will integrate these questions in the panel discussion.